From beautiful Jerusalem, welcome to this week's episode of Something for Shabbos on the Shmoozing podcast channel with me, David Goodwin, and Rabbi Menachem Salasnik. Parashat Tavo.
Yeah.
We're back.
Or perhaps 𝘨𝘨 if you prefer. And it's a big one. It starts off with the...
Very Israel. Very
That's
land,
right.
Very land of Israel. When you come to the land,
we're in the land, and you're farming it, and you're producing, and then taking that first fruit to the temple. It then moves on to talking about this ceremony where half of the tribes stood at the bottom, would stand when they crossed over into Israel at the bottom of one mountain, and the other half of the tribes would stand on the other mountain, and curses and blessings would be pronounced, meaning if we do well, we're going to get blessing, and if we unfortunately don't do well, the opposite will happen.
It's a crazy ceremony that
yes,
the Torah describes.
It's almost like...
It's unique, isn't it?
Instilling into our historical psyche or DNA that this is what we are. And the 𝘥𝗯𝗯𝗶 𝗠𝗏 says something really, really interesting. He says, people are searching all the time for segulot, right? This red string and this blessing from this rabbi and this let's travel to wherever it happens to be to daven at the gravesite of some great rabbi, which I'm not putting down any of that. But he points out that we have clearly written in the Torah a list of things for which you get blessed. And one of them happens to be not harming somebody in secret, which our sages say is not speaking lashon hara about them. Because that's what you do when you're sort of like this, to the side.
Right.
So he says, why are you searching for segulot when all you need to do is stop speaking badly about people and you will automatically be blessed.
It's amazing.
These two mountains are called 𝘥𝗯𝗯𝗶 and 𝘥𝗯𝗯𝗶. 𝘥𝗯𝗯𝗶 was the mountain of blessing, and there is right now a Jewish community
That's right.
on that land called 𝘥𝗪𝗏, led by the well-known Rabbi Rav Melamed.
That's right.
And it's a
historically
powerful, it's
very,
exactly.
High impact place.
And a reminder that some of these places that are so-called disputed are integral to our history. It's very, very important.
Yeah, clear cut, black and white historical things. But then people just say, well, it never happened. It's just written. It's made up fairy tale.
They can say whatever they like.
Exactly. The the stones that Hashem said to build and to write the Torah on. It says
in many languages. In
many languages on this. Firstly, there's I'm not sure if you're going to speak about this, but I just had this question. Isn't it a shame we don't have those stones visible today? They must have been destroyed by someone because they must have been there. And number two, what does it mean? All the Torah is written on them in many languages. What? The Ten Commandments? I never understood that.
I actually can't answer that. If it was the full Torah, it's going to be
miniature writing,
miniature, like one of those sort of massive stones, miniature writing. Yeah. Like you see these artworks where they managed to put the whole of Sefer Tehillim in one piece of thing. I don't know. I don't know. But yes, it would be great. Then we could say, look.
Oh, can you imagine? But that was never going to be that would last history. Mm-hmm. So. Today, what you got? I
mean, after that is the whole of the repeat, shall we say, of the tochacha, of the rebuke, the terrible things that are going to come to the Jewish people.
And it's seriously long.
And it's long. It's longer than the one that we talked about in Parashat 𝘭𝘏𝗏𝗏.
Yeah.
Much more painful. The truth is, our whole year has been one long thing. So I prefer to not talk about that. I want to go back to the beginning of the parasha where we talk about the bringing of the bikurim, these first fruits. And just as a sort of an investigation of the human psyche, somebody puts in so much work. The farmer, you think about the farmer, he's digging,
working the land.
It's months and months of hard work. You till the land. You have to dig down, put the seed in. You have to water it. You look after it. You put all of that work into it.
Total nurturing and care.
Mm-hmm. And it would be extremely easy at that point for a person to say, "Well,
it was all me.
Look at me. I've done so well." And it's that first fruit that sprouts where, you get that rush of, wow, look what I've created. Or if you're not a farmer, think about the first really amazing podcast that you created or piece of filming work or whatever it happens to be, that thing, or perhaps for me, the book, right? Obviously I look at that and I think, wow, look what I've created, right? And Hashem is saying, I just want you to pause for a moment. And yes, you've done really well. This is great. But can you see how you were given this and this and this and this? And yes, you took all of that and you made something with it, but don't lose the gratitude of all of those things you've been given that allowed you to take that step forward. And that, as a human, we do that naturally. We just forget. It's almost like I cannot allow myself to be dependent. I'm so desperate for independence to show that I've made it. I'm just not. It's a complete block. I'm not interested. But the reality is that I could have only written a book if Hashem had given me certain abilities, the ability to understand, the ability to put words together,
health,
study, health, of course, health, all the most basic stuff,
basics.
right? And we just lose that. And Hashem says, one second, if you want to be a growthful person, a really growthful person, it has to start with gratitude on the deepest things, the most minute things. And it's actually a really fascinating law, which the Gemara brings about how these first fruits were brought. It says that the wealthy people brought them in golden baskets made of gold and silver. And the poor people brought the fruits in wicker baskets made of, wood, sticks, reeds.
Yeah.
And the Gemara says that the rich people received their golden baskets in return, whereas the poor people never got their wicker baskets back. They gave the wicker baskets with the fruit in over
to the Kohen,
or donated to the 𝘨𝘳𝘐, and then at that point the baskets stay there. And so why would that be? In fact, the Gemara even uses a phrase, basa aniya azil aniya, or something like that, which means poverty comes to the poor person. It's almost like you're stuck in poverty, right? You don't have much, and even the small amount that you do have, you lose, you don't get back. But that's a bit weird. I mean, why would we not give back his wicker basket? So I had a beautiful explanation. It really touches down to this point. And that is that when the wealthy person is bringing his fruit in his gold, that gold basket means nothing to him.
Right.
He's wealthy, right? He's got everything. He's not even thinking about this.
What he brings in.
Yeah. But the poor person, every little thing that he has is a sacrifice. Every little thing, he's completely in touch with the minutiae of how he's able to do anything. So
because everything matters.
Exactly. And therefore even the basket
is
itself something that's being sacrificed, is being brought. Even this basket means something to me. I appreciate even this basket, and even that appreciation, that I want to hand over to Hashem. I heard this. There's a British comedian who was actually doing a podcast that wasn't funny. It wasn't a comedy podcast. I heard him say something so truthful. Our generation, our life, we are living on the highest level of comfort.
Yeah, abundance,
comfort, whatever. Than there's ever been.
Ever.
Right?
Who was it? Which comedian? I want to know.
It was what's that guy?
You've got Ricky Gervais? No.
Carr. What's his name?
Oh, Alan Carr.
No, the other one. Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy Carr. Yeah, okay.
Right? He was saying that we do live in a life of just, healthcare.
The lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't have free healthcare, the level of healthcare
compared to 100 years ago.
Food, the fact, what does it mean to be poor nowadays? You know what it used to mean to be poor? It meant that you truly had no idea when you were going to get your next meal, right? there aren't that many people on that level of poverty nowadays.
Certainly not in the West, but it still exists.
Correct.
On a large scale.
He's also talking about within the West,
Right.
right? And yet we're just still complaining. Everybody's still complaining. And we've just lost sight of the gratitude
And
of the small things.
Yeah, the appreciation.
If we had that gratitude and appreciation of those tiny, tiny things, our life would be completely different. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean that you can't try and work to make things better. But as a starting point, let's start with that deep down every single day. You wake up in the morning, you say, thank you, Hashem, for giving me a new day, right? The fact that I'm alive is already something to celebrate and to appreciate. I think it's also interesting that when he presents these first fruit in the temple, he then says something. He recites something, the verses of the Torah which talk about.
Hang on, both the rich man and the poor man. They both say the same
both
about
of them say the same
Lavan,
thing about what Lavan tried to kill us. We then eventually tried we got down to Egypt eventually, and then we were slaves, and then Hashem took us out, and we're using what the farmer is being told to do. He's being told to not just look in the minutiae, the small things of the moment. Yeah. It's not just in space, it's in time.
Right. Look
back at your history. Understand what your forefathers have been through to get to this point. Right? When you take an antibiotic for us, if you take an antibiotic, do you think for a moment about the studies that took place about Fleming, I think his name was, when look at the history of this, see what it's been through. How did we arrive here? And appreciate each step along the way. And on Seder night, when we sit down at Seder night and we recount the story, we actually don't recount the story from Shemot, where we actually left Exodus. We recount the story based on what the guy says when he brings his first fruit. Because what God is saying to us is, okay, right now, you are generations away from that amazing thing. Do you have the ability to sit here and look back and appreciate what's been done to you generation after generation after generation until you can sit here and enjoy your freedom? Or whatever level of freedom you have.
It's in many ways it's harder when you have a lot. You have to work harder because it's not a because it is more of a given. Even if you're struggling to make ends meet, it's still a given because of all the things you listed. Whereas pure poverty, you can't get out of it, and there was probably no opportunity until like the 20th century arrived that you were ever going to edge out of that.
Right. They were stuck in their band, their caste, whatever you want to call them.
Completely.
Their lower class, whatever. And then there were certain, emancipations that allowed people to climb up that ladder. But 100%. I'm a big fan. I know people get annoyed by this, but I'm a big fan of writing gratitude notes.
You do it?
Not for anybody else.
No, for yourself.
For myself. I'm not saying writing a note and giving it to somebody to thank. That also, one should do that.
You mean reminding yourself?
But not just in thought. We talked about this before. When things remain in the realm of thought, it doesn't have the same effect. It can have a little bit of an effect, but it doesn't have the same effect. I believe strongly that people should not just have their, daily things that they think about, or what am I going to be thankful for today? I believe that we should be writing it down and perhaps looking back at it from time to time. And there's an amazing book written about, the truth is I can't remember the guy. I think he calls it like 365 notes, where he saw his whole life collapsing around him. I think his wife had left him and his business wasn't working well. And I think he was a lawyer. And he took upon himself to write a gratitude note every single day. Sometimes he would give it to a person, but most of the time it was just finding something to write. And he talks in this book about how his whole life change. Everything is all about the perspective. His whole life changed. So that's something I would recommend for people. It's something that I try and do myself. And that's the message of this week's parasha.
This show is brought to you by Dream Digital Art, the place to buy the coolest Jewish and Israel-related art pieces and products. As a schmoozing podcast fan, you'll get 10% off your online order with the promo code shmooze10.